If you're brand new to the New Life event, welcome. My name is Shauna Siegel. I'm the CEO of One Choice for Your Store, host of Ecom Experts on Webmaster Radio. I love, love, love education. I love education, and that's what the New Life event is all about. I love it. All right, so special thank you. Please make sure to say thank you to our speakers. You guys are doing an awesome job. You guys make sure that they come back time and time again. I mean, check out Stoney. He's back again. And you know what? It's because of you guys. You guys make them feel good. You make them feel special. You know, Stoney, I don't know if you know this, but you gave us a free download one of the last times that you were here, and they're still downloading it this weekend. That's, you know.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's so great. And so if you have any new downloads you want me to put on our free goodies page, they will eat that up. I don't know if, remember that free goodies page I sent you in the email page, that keyword wonderful information download that you got? Yeah, Stoney, that's, yeah, pay attention to this one. Okay, keep spreading the word. Major prizes throughout, plus don't forget our daily grand prize, which is phenomenal. Plus, if you win today's grand prize, or, you know, the other one's already given away, you're going to have some time with Stoney to look at your website, to look at the SEO, to look at your optimization, your conversions, all of this stuff, and that is precious, precious time for growing your business. So this is going to be great, great prize. You're a winner just by being here, just by being able to listen to this information. This is a guy that's at Search Engine Strategies. This is the one that I went to and listened to, and I said, oh my God, I got to bring this guy to mothers. I got to bring him to fathers. I got to bring him to small business. These are the type of speakers I'm talking about. So if you want to know about how to win, just go to twitter-winner.com. All the information is there. How to do it, what to do it, where to do it. Everything is right there. You know our schedule. It's on the agenda. I'm going to hurry up. I'm going to get through this. If you have questions, twitter.com, you know, New Life event, or ask questions on the right-hand side. I am rushing. I want to hear Stoney. Stoney, take it away, please. I just love you. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Can everybody see my screen?
We haven't hit it yet, but we should see it soon.
Oh, there we are. I just wasn't sure how this worked, so.
Oh, and somebody said that they couldn't download the Stoney's book this morning. I will get with Stoney. I will fix that, and I will email you when that gets fixed.
Okay, great. All right. Do you see the website architecture home screen on there?
I do,
okay.
And I'm going to mute myself and let you get going.
All right. Thank you very much, and just want to thank everybody else who's here today listening, and just hope I can give you some good information that you walk away from, and kind of figure out some new things to do with your website that's going to give them, make them a little more search engine friendly, and hopefully more people friendly too. So let's get into the website architecture. You know, when you build a website, a lot of times we look at the design elements and we want it to look pretty. But we don't focus on the back end, how the site is organized and how it's structured. And there's a problem when we do that because you don't allow the search engines to gain access to the information or to rate the information essentially in its algorithm as well as it should. So when you don't implement a strong website architecture, really what's going to happen is the search engines are not going to be able to index as many pages as they want to index, or as you would want them to index. So what's going to happen is you've got all these pages of great content, and it may even be optimized content, but the search engines aren't finding it. And we'll go over some of those reasons why, but just for now, we want to understand there is a problem here that we need to address. And when your index pages goes down, then your rankings can also go down too. And that may be they're not reading the pages right, or they're not getting to the right pages for the keywords that you want to rank for, and instead they're ranking other pages for those keywords. So you're going to see index pages and rankings aren't living up to their full potential. And of course, the result of that is you're going to have fewer visitors, and the result of that is you're going to have fewer sales. So really, when it comes down to building a website, we often think, I need to get this site optimized. Well, you need to get the architecture in place too, because that's what's going to build the foundation for good SEO and increasing visitors and sales, which is really everything that we want with a website. Now, what do you gain? When you do implement good website architecture, well, the search engines are going to be able to find the important pages on your site. And if you're dealing with e-commerce, this is crucial because you've got hundreds, if not thousands or millions of pages of products and categories and things like that, and you want to make sure the search engines can find those pages because they are all valuable, and you want to make sure your visitors can get to those. You also allow, with architecture, users to navigate to the pages that are important to them. And it's crucial here that we highlight the pages that are important to them, because everybody's coming for different content, everybody's coming for different needs and questions that need to be answered, and you want to make it as easy as possible for them to find it. And that's what good architecture does. It also allows the search engines to value the pages properly, because you've set it up so the search engines get to that content and they see the value of a page based on how it's organized within the site and the content on that, and your users can quickly get to relevant pages throughout the site and moving around from product to product or category to category, and it makes it all easy to find. So it really comes down to this, is you don't want to make the search engines think. You want to make it as easy as possible for them when they come to the site to really see and analyze how the site is laid out, how it's supposed to all work together, and not have to work too hard into figuring out which pages are more important than others. They don't want to have to think, and you're going to do well for making them think as little as possible. Now, when it comes to your users, this is who they are. You don't want them to think either, because oftentimes they're just, and I don't mean to put down the visitor, but you want to make it easy for them, so you're dumbing it down for them so they can just get into the site and do what needs to be done. People are in a hurry. They want to get things done. They don't want to have to figure out a website, and you're going to do well trying to make it very easy for all of them. So what we're going to go through, we're going to hit 3 areas on website architecture, and we're going to hit the URL and site structure, link and navigation structure, and document and page structure. And we're going to kind of segment each of these, going through each of them a little bit at a time, and cover key points in all of those. So let's start. One of the key points I wanted to make before we got into one of these categories here is that bad architecture slows search engine spidering. And I kind of hit that in the beginning there, where here's an example where you have a whole bunch of pages, but the search engines aren't able to get to all of those pages, or they're getting to them at a much slower rate. So you want to make sure that with the good architecture, the search engines are able to spider as many good quality pages as possible as quickly as possible. So that's one of the key things that we want to do here. So let's get into URL and site structure. Domain names, most of us, if you got a website, you've already got your domain name, but sometimes we change some things around and we go and decide we want to get a new domain name or whatever. So key points on domain names. One is you want to get your own. You don't want to be on Blogspot. You don't want to be hosted on somebody else's domain, because what happens if you want to move your site over to your own, you're going to have all kinds of redirecting problems. You want to have your own domain. You want to keep it short, something that people can remember when you tell them, and if possible, get your keywords worked into there. So some examples: beautiful.com, probably not a great domain name because you're trying to say hyphen between every letter. Perfectbeauty.blogspot, again, you don't want to be on those other domain names. And then how to improve your image is it's kind of long and clunky. Some good examples: Total Beauty, Perfect Beauty, Beauty is Beautiful, whatever. But short, sweet, and getting your keywords in there is crucial. When you're dealing with alternate domain names, and a lot of times you want to buy alternate versions of your domain name, whether it be a .com, a .net, an abbreviated version, a misspelling, and these are good things to do, is to purchase those. But when you do, make sure you do a 301 redirect to your primary domain. Don't do it, trying to figure out how to say this here. You want to make sure that when the visitor types in one of these alternate domain names, the address in the address bar switches over completely to the domain you want them to be on. And that's a 301 redirect. So you got to make sure that redirect is implemented properly, or you can get into some duplicate content, duplicate site issues, which you don't want to. You want to avoid all that. Canonical issues. There's a lot of different ways to create multiple versions of the same page, and here's one example where you've got www.example.com, example.com slash, www.example.com slash index.html, example.com slash home.asp, where all of these can essentially be the exact same page. But you want to make sure that all of those pages are not accessible and indexable in the search engines. Otherwise, you have 4 pages of duplicate content. There's several things that you can do using the htaccess file to correct some of these. You can also use the canonical tag, and that way you're telling the search engine, this is the main page. So here you would have the link, rel equals canonical, and then you have the URL of the actual page that you want to be the page in the search engine index. And there's several things that you can do otherwise, and we'll get to some of that. But you just want to make sure that you don't have these duplicate type pages hanging out there. The search engine friendly URLs, when you're creating the the file names or the directory structure for your site, you want to keep it short. You have your site, category, maybe a subcategory, and then the page name. You don't want to get all crazy with having a directory name that is 15 words long. I would say 3 words at the most for any directory, subdirectory, or page name. You want to keep it short. You want to make it easy, but you also want to make it readable to where if somebody's looking at the URL in the search results, they know that URL contains exactly what they're looking for. And when you use keywords as your directories and subdirectories, then you're doing just that. And here we have the example, site.com, Chanel/perfume/allure. Somebody looking at that URL knows exactly what they're going to get when they go to that page. So that's crucial. That's what you want to do. A big problem with sites is differing navigational paths, and that's where you have a single product and different ways in which to get to those products. And if you look at this example, you can see that the URL is different, even though basically the user is on the same page. But the first one, the top one, they shop by brand, went to Burton, and hit Burton Snowboards. The second one, they went to Snowboards first, and then select Burton Snowboards. It's the same page of content, which is Burton Snowboards, but it's 2 different URLs. So you want to be careful on how you do this. You don't really want to have these multiple URLs for the same page of content. So you need to talk to your developers and programmers and how do we correct the situation? How do we make sure that this Burton Snowboards page only has 1 URL regardless of how it was navigated to? So hyphens versus underscores, this isn't such a big deal anymore. It's more of a usability issue than a search engine issue. When you use underscores and people post those in blog posts or comments or anywhere else, and the link gets underlined, the underscores look like spaces. So what you want to do is use hyphens instead of underscores so it's clear. So somebody doesn't have to sit there and guess, is that a space or is that an underscore? If you use hyphens, you're making it clean, clear, and you just stick to that format throughout the whole site. Session IDs can be a problem when it comes to having URLs that create duplicate content. Session ID is basically an ID that is tagged onto the end of the URL that is specific for every person who comes to the website. So if I go to a website and I'm on the home page, I'm at site.com/session-ID. And if you go to the website, you're at the same page with a different session ID on the end. Now what happens with that is every user essentially gets a unique URL even though they're visiting the same page. So you got 10,000 visitors in the course of a month. That's 10,000 URLs that the search engines can possibly index that all are the exact same content. Now you multiply that to as many pages there are on the site, and you can see you've got a big duplicate content problem that you might want to fix. So we never recommend using session IDs. You want to, as much as possible, use alternate forms of navigation, such as using cookies, or things like that, to track your visitors. So session IDs just create that duplicate content problem, and I've seen it. Developers try to implement workarounds and fixes, and it never works 100%. So I'm just not a big fan of session IDs whatsoever. Favicon, again, this is a usability issue. What you want to do is, if you can, you customize that little image that you can have in the title bar. This shows, it's a branding issue, where this shows your image, at the top of the screen. It shows it on the tabs in Firefox or Internet Explorer, and it shows it in people's bookmarks. So for a usability issue, it makes it easy for people to find the pages that they've bookmarked, and it just lends a little bit of credibility. It's almost now like having a website without a logo at the top. It's just a tiny little thing, but it can make a big difference for reinforcing your brand. Custom 404 redirect pages. And we've probably all seen this, where you're navigating through a site, you hit a link, it's a broken link, and you get this page not found. Just white page, hey, that's it, you're done. What you want to do is customize that, where somebody lands on a page that's a broken link, and they can get to that page. Broken links come from internal on sites. Somebody could post a link on another site to a page that gets moved or removed, or somebody could mistype a link in or whatever, and you can get those broken links. So what you want to do is, if somebody hits that page that's not really there, they're get a custom message that says, hey, this page isn't here. Here's an alternate way to navigate. Here's some information you may be interested in that you may want to look for. It keeps them on their site without getting that white page. It makes them feel like they're nowhere. They're on your site. They're still enjoying the experience of your site, and then you can move them through the navigation process to other areas. As much as possible, you want to have a good directory structure, and there's 3 different types of directory structure. There's the flat, which is everything's kind of on the same level when it comes to how it's organized in the back end. You've got where it's vertical, where everything's kind of horizontal, and you just got to keep clicking and get further and further and further down to those pages. But what you really want is something in between, where you've got your home page, you've got your main categories, and you're using keywords in those category URL names, and then from there they can click into and get to the pages of content. If you got too flat, then the search engines just kind of see every page as being equal, and that doesn't really give them a sense of importance. If you're too vertical, then the pages way down at the bottom look like they're not important at all, whereas if you got a nice combination between flat and vertical, then you're kind of giving the search engines, hey, these are the most important pages, these are the second level of important pages, and so on. But you don't want to go down too far or too vertical unless you really got a huge site and there's no other way to do that. All right, let's move on to link and navigation structure. So looking at how your navigation is laid out, it's important that you have all of the key elements in place so your visitors, when they come to your website, they can get to the areas in the pages of the site that matter most. In this example here, you've got your categories and brands over on the left-hand side. You've got a link to the home page, at the top in the logo. They can view their product, their shopping cart basket. You got search option there, and you've got contact information. And this is a decent navigation. There's no perfect, natural navigation that you can use, and it just really has to do with on a site-by-site basis. But you want to make sure it's intuitive, that people can, from your home page or from any page really, navigate to the key areas of the site that are going to be most important. Footer navigation, this is, a lot of people use the footer navigation for SEO purposes, and you can do that. You just don't want to go overboard. Have things like, your privacy policies, secondary about us links, site maps, frequently asked questions. These are good places for, the footer is a good place for these type of links where it's kind of the unimportant stuff, and it's just a rehash of some of the real important stuff like the About Us page and the home page. You don't want to have your footer navigation be a complete sitemap, and I've seen a lot of sites that do that, and that just kind of messes up your directory structure. that we talked about a couple slides ago. So you want to keep it nice and clean. And in this case here, they put all of their category product names in the footer, and that's on every page. And that's that can be good, that can be bad. But again, if you're doing that where you're putting every link to your site in that footer, you just don't want to do that. You want to keep it clean as possible. Breadcrumbs, that's a great navigational tool. Very few people actually use it as a navigational tool. But what they do use it is for visual cues on where they are in the site. And so, this is where it's really important to make sure that you use your breadcrumbs properly and use that to indicate people where they are, where they came from, or, what are the next couple of categories back to the home page. It really allows people to figure out, this is where I'm at. Now I know how to navigate away from here without keep hitting my browser back button. I can navigate back to the categories. If I'm in the snowboard bindings page, I can click all the way back to the Burton page and then start another navigational path. So it makes navigation easy, and you really use it for those visual cues which help people to navigate through your site. Anchor text, it's important to use keyword-rich anchor text. Here we've got two examples where it says click here or read more versus toddler bedding sets and 5-piece cotton crib sets. If you're looking for information, people are more likely to click on a link that actually reads what it is that they want. Click here doesn't really tell people what they're getting when they click here. Or read more, it may, okay, there's more to this here, but it doesn't really convey the message versus if you use good keyword-rich link text, then people know what they're getting when they do click there. So just kind of an example of some keyword-rich link text. You got the click here to learn more about preparing personal tax returns. Click here, which is hyperlinked to learn more about, and hyperlinked preparing personal tax returns. Well, this is okay because you've got preparing personal tax returns hyperlinked, but you've also got the click here, so it can be confusing. Which one do I click? Where do I need to go? Then you've got click here to learn about preparing personal tax returns, and there people see that's what they want to get to. You don't have to tell them to click here. Sometimes that's nice, but you don't have to if you have good keyword-rich anchor text. And then you can, do the whole sentence, which is a little bit cumbersome. Click here about preparing personal tax returns. It works, but you don't necessarily want to have an entire sentence hyperlinked. So generally, it's a good idea to look for your keywords that are relevant to the page that the user is going to be going to, and use that as your hyperlink text. Related topics, this is a big one for e-commerce sites, where if you've got a product or a visitor is looking at a specific product, you want to highlight additional products that they may be interested in. And I was doing a search for Season 3 of Battlestar Galactica, and in the similar titles it said, hey, I might be interested in Firefly. You're damn right I'm interested in Firefly. I love that show. So here was an upsell opportunity because I was looking for one show, and they said, hey, this might spark your interest. And that is exactly what it did. It sparked my interest. Now, obviously, I have both of these series on Blu-ray already, so I don't need to buy any more. But the point is if you use the upsell opportunities, use related titles, it also not only increases sales, but it increases the ability of the search engines to get to more content or get more links coming from various pages on the site to other areas of content, which bolsters that content in, not in the search results per se, but in the authority level of each of those pages, because more links are going to those. Shopping carts. This is a big one. You don't want the search engines to be able to follow shopping cart links, and this comes down to how those links are programmed when they're adding a product to the cart or clicking into the checkout. Make sure your programmers don't allow those links to be spiderable. There's a lot of ways that they can do that, and it's just crucial. It's crucial that they do, because what happens is the search engines get in there and they start crawling around the shopping cart. you don't want them adding products to their basket because the search engines aren't going to buy anything. So it does you no good, and it just creates the amount of pages that can come up in the search engine index. So the best thing to do is keep the search engines out of the shopping cart entirely. Content that is behind form fields or password-protected areas, the search engines cannot get to those. So if you don't want the search engines to get to them, then that's fine. But if you do want the search engines, like in the case on the right here, where you want the search engines to go to select some of these makes and get to those pages, get to the products, they can't because the form has to be filled out first. And the search engines don't really do that very well, and that blocks the content from the search engines getting into that, and therefore it blocks people from being able to get to those pages from the search results, and they have to start going to the main site at the home page or whatever and navigate down versus letting the search engines index those pages, deliver those pages in the search results, and allow the visitors to get to those pages with one click from the search result based on what it was that they searched. A secure shopping path, and this goes to what I was saying a couple minutes ago, where you've got your products and people add those products to the shopping cart, and then they go to checkout, and you're going from an unsecure area to an unsecure area to a secure area. And there's nothing wrong with that, but what happens is sometimes once they're in the secure area, they go, I want to get out of this. I click on a link, and it takes me back to an unsecure area, but it's actually using a secure URL. And that is where it has the HTTPS colon. So what you want to make sure is once somebody gets into that secure area, all of your links out of the secure area are actually taking them out of the secure, and they can no longer navigate into the HTTPS portion of the site without going through the proper channels. What this does is, and I've seen this with sites, they add products to the shopping cart, they go to checkout, and they go, well, I'm going to go shop some more. So they navigate out, and now they're in the secure area of the site, but it's the main site. So every product page, every directory page, it's all with the HTTPS. Those pages are now getting spidered as duplicate content. So you really want to make sure that once the visitor goes in the secure area, if they go to leave that area, it actually leaves them out of the secure as well, so you don't get the duplicate content. You're keeping a tight control over what is and isn't secure on your site and making sure people only view what they're supposed to. Linking to your home page, and again, we talked about how one page can have multiple URLs. And when this is an example here where you've got the emarketingperformance.com, and then you have emarketingperformance.com/index.php. So these are two links or two URLs that go to the home page here. What you want to do is you want to pick one of those and link to that exclusively. If I want people to use the index.php in the URL, then I make sure all of my links have that. And this doesn't work just for the home page. It works for every page on the site, where you're in a top-level directory, whether it be site.com/category/index.php or category/subcategory/index.php. And what you want to do is make sure that you either consistently link to that index.php or consistently don't link to it, so there can't be any confusion with the search engines finding one or another. And that can be a problem with big sites where you have a lot of different people getting in, creating links sometimes, and they're linking one way and somebody else is linking another way. You need to set some standards so people coming in will link to those pages with only one particular way. Search engine friendly links. This is a big one where we're looking at some URLs here that it's pretty long, but it's pretty search engine friendly too, because it's got your keywords in there, and it's set up where you've got your home and garden category, leather massage recliner is the actual product, and then they kind of tack on the product number and name. That's not a bad URL. We've seen some where you've got this really long JavaScript. In fact, here's one where this is a JavaScript link. Search engines can't really decipher that. So they can't follow that and go, here's a page of content. They see that kind of link, they stop. So if that is a page, if that product is a page you want the search engines to put in their index so people can find it, you need to use a different kind of link. This JavaScript link just isn't going to cut it. Another option, go that way. This is kind of so-so, where you've got the JavaScript, but in that link you have the URL. So the search engines can decipher where that's going to. They just might not do it right because it starts with the JavaScript instead of the href, which here you see, well, you got the HTTP versus here it's kind of buried in the code a little bit. So you want to make sure that your developers create the links properly so they can be spidered, and those pages, the search engines can go to those, pull the content, and put those in the index. You want to be careful about splitting link flow between duplicate pages. If you do have two category pages that are essentially the same thing, but people navigated to them differently, what the problem here is people will start linking to those pages, whether it's internally on the site or people from somewhere else. I'm going back to that Burton snowboard example. You want to make sure people link to only one version of those pages. Otherwise, you're splitting your authority and your power. So you got 2 pages here with 10 links to them versus, I thought I had another slide there, versus redirecting all of those links to one page. Well, now you've got one page with a lot more authority. And this is the reason why you want to avoid duplicate content and duplicate pages on your site, is so the link flow and the value of all the links going to those pages is consolidated into one page versus being spread out over multiple duplicate pages. So that is going to hurt you with the search engines, and that's going to hurt you with people bookmarking sites and sending out links because you're splitting up that value. You want to keep that consolidated. Broken links, I recommend going and doing a broken link check at least once a month. Things change on sites. Sometimes we move things around and we forget to implement 301 redirects. Sometimes we delete pages. We think they're useless and we don't get rid of all the links. Or it's just maybe it's somebody else that you link to has moved or removed content. So broken link checks can help make sure that you keep all of your links valid so there's no errors. What you don't want to do is be sending people off to another page, whether it's internal or another site, that isn't there. So running the broken link checks once a month can help you consolidate and fix all of those errors. Okay, now we're going to go on to document and page structure, and I think I can get through this in the next 10, 15 minutes here, or less. Site hierarchy, about this a little bit with the document structure or the directory structure, and when we're talking about hierarchy, it's pretty much the same thing. You want to make sure there's a natural flow of topics. You've got your home page, and that links to your top 3 topics or top 5 or whatever, and then those topics break down and go down to the other pages. What you don't want is all the pages under topic A linking to all the pages under topic C or all the pages in topic B. You want to keep those contained under topic A. Now, that's not to say you can't do the occasional link out to other topic areas where it's relevant, but what you don't want to do is create a navigation where all of these pages link to all of the other pages, because, again, that puts you back onto that flat directory structure, and it doesn't give the search engines any kind of sense of, these pages belong under this topic, these pages belong under this topic. So that's one of the things you want to do with your site hierarchy, is keep everything contained under the topical categories as much as possible. Title tags, and this is probably stuff that you guys all know by now, but I'm just going to hit it real quick anyway. Your title tag influences rankings. It's what people see when they go to the search engines, and it helps them make the decision whether to click into your site, and it also provides a label for the browsers. You want your title tag to be keyword rich, but you also want it to be readable. You want people to be able to look at that and go, that is exactly what I want. You can't just throw a bunch of keywords at it and hope that that's going to do something, because people don't like that. They want to read it and go, that makes sense to me. You got about 63 character limit for what the search engines will display, so use those 63 characters wisely. Then we can move on to the meta description. Generally, it's a 20 to 40 word summary of the page. I recommend that every page have a substantially unique description tag. Make sure it's compelling. Again, this will show up on the search results. It doesn't really factor into rankings, but it does factor into people reading that and going, that site offers what I want. They'll read the title. They'll look at the description. If they see their keywords in there, they're more likely to click. And not every page does need a description. If you're dealing with long tail keywords, and usually the idea on this is articles and blog posts versus categories and products. The articles and blog posts don't necessarily need a description tag, because you can let the search engine import that based on the search. And the search engine will take snippets of text using the keywords that the searcher did and create a description in the search results for you. And that can be much more effective when you're dealing with pages that aren't covering a very specific focused topic, but you're getting a lot of long tail traffic. So if you're going after primary keywords, always write a description so you can use those keywords in there. The meta keyword tag, do you use commas, spaces, how long should it be, phrases versus words? It really doesn't matter. Search engines don't care. They don't read it. So you can disregard the meta keyword tag altogether. I still use it only because I still have clients that go, how come you're not using this? So to save the question, I throw a keyword tag in there and I run away. And that's what the search engines do. They see the keyword tag and they go, yeah, don't care. Let's move on. So unique content. You want to make sure that your site has substantially unique content. Unique content stands out. If you've got a site that's basically just rehashing what everybody else is doing, or scraping content, or you're taking other things and you're not adding anything unique to that, you're not going to stand out above anybody else, and you're not going to stand out in the search engines. So it's important that, especially when you're dealing with stock descriptions of like products, you want to reword those. And I know that can be difficult because you're dealing with hundreds or thousands of products, but those descriptions that you import into your site, those are the same descriptions being used on hundreds of other websites selling the exact same thing. So you want to be able to put your own unique spin on each and every product if possible, so your content stands out. You want to be a little bit different, so you have a chance of the search engines looking at that and going, well, I've got 1,000 pages that all have the same product description and one that's different. Well, they're going to give that one a little bit of a boost. Textual interlinking. When you're writing content and putting content together for your website, look for opportunities to link to other content areas and other pages of the site. This is crucial. This helps with search engine optimization, but it also helps with people navigating the site, getting to information that is relevant to them. So if you're talking about something that you provide more detail on another page, link to that content. Use that as opportunities, and there's not too often that you can have too many links on a page going out. Now, if your page is a sea of blue because every word is a link, then you're going to be in trouble. But if there's an opportunity there, try to take that, because that is good for usability, it's good for search engines, and it reinforces the keywords if you are linking those words textually. On-page content development, write clearly, be accurate, use your keywords and do your keyword research before you start writing content so you know the language your visitor wants to use. That's really important here. A lot of times we get stuck in our own lingo, using our own internal language, and that's not the language people outside of our industry, that's not the language that they use. So you want to make sure you do your keyword research, find out what words and phrases people are using, and use those in your content. And if you got images, use the image alt attribute to describe what the image is. Your heading hierarchy. Every page has opportunity to use everything from an H1, H2, down to an H6. H1 is the highest value, H6 is the lowest value, and these are basically paragraph headings. And you want to use these in a way that you would use put together an outline for a term paper. Your H1 would be your title. There's only one of those per page. And it's not your website name. It's not your company name. It's a title that is unique and specific for that page of content. From there, you would move on to, with an outline, you'd move into your three main points, A, B, and C. Well, those would be your H2s. So you have your H2, which is your first main point, and you have another H2, which is the second main point, another H2, which is the third main point. And this is assuming you've got pages with lots of content. And then you would have your subpoints, which is, 1, 2, and 3. Those would be your H3s. So think of these as an outline, how to use those. Generally, most pages don't need any more than an H1 and maybe a couple H2s. But if you're dealing with lengthy content, then you can use quite a bit of these, all the way down to H3, H4, H5. Rarely have I seen anybody go down to use H6 and use that for other things such as navigation off to the side or whatnot. But the headings can be an important part of the SEO. It's not a magic bullet. It's if you change something from bold to an H1, that's going to vault you into the rankings. It's not. But it does help the search engines figure out where the content goes. They know that your H3s that are under the H2 kind of go together. So it helps them group the content just like you would see in a term paper. You want to eliminate code bloat as much as possible. A lot of times we see a lot of JavaScript and CSS that's on the page, and if you can move those off the page, do so. What that does is it speeds up download time for each page because the search engines only have to download that once, and the visitor actually, the visitor only has to download those, the CSS and the JavaScript once, and then it applies it to every page on the site. So it speeds up the download time. When the search engines see download times increase, that is one of the factors that goes into search engine rankings. It's a small factor, but it's still one of those factors that goes into that. So as much as possible, eliminate code bloat, excess tables, anything that just garbles up the code. Get it clean and lean as much as possible, and so every page can be very quick to download. Using image alt attributes, here's an example of a website. You turn the images off. You can't navigate it. And what you want to do is make sure that you can navigate the site when the images are off, whether somebody is on a slow modem and they want faster download times, they want to navigate more quickly, or they're on a cell phone that's not a smartphone. So there are reasons why you want to use alt attributes. And even people with visual disability, the screen readers will read the images in the alt attributes. So if you have a navigation and you're not using alt attribute, you are making your site unusable. If your navigation is based on images, you're making your site unusable for a small segment of your audience. And that could mean a couple sales. So for the time that it's worth, use the image alt attributes, put that content in there so people can know what those images are supposed to be if they don't see the actual images. Also make sure your site looks good for mobile users. Smartphones are getting better and better at having regular browsers, so it's not as big of a deal as it used to be. But again, I would always test your website on a couple different mobile devices so you can see what people are seeing when they're not in front of a computer. And that's real important because people are using their smartphones now for just about everything. They're on the go, they're looking stuff up. You want to make sure if they come to your website, they can use it and navigate it and get all the information that they want. Otherwise, they'll go to a competitor's website. Printer-friendly pages. There's a couple different ways to do this, but what you don't want to do is create a new page that the search engines can spider that is quote-unquote printer-friendly. You want to eliminate that duplicate content problem, and you can do that by creating a printer-friendly CSS where in your coding and see a style sheet, when people go to print, it prints only the information that is necessary. It doesn't create a new page in any way. And you can strip out a lot of the navigation. You can strip out a lot of the footer and header type stuff that just isn't necessary, and give people a very clean, printer-friendly page. You know, page friendly where, and I've seen this where I go and print a page and, you know, you got a couple paragraphs on the first page and then it's blank. And then you got some more content on the second page and then it's blank and some more content on the third page. Using printer-friendly CSS, you can make sure that the whole page prints as a single package and it looks good. And this is great for people who are researching products or researching information that they have to take to somebody else. They often print this stuff up, put it on their desk, and the better it looks, the better it's going to be for you. So, in conclusion, we have a Twitter winner. That pretty much wraps it up. Twitter winner is going to get 30 minutes of free consultation. We'll answer any questions that you have regarding SEO, usability, site architecture. We can take a look at your website and give you specific feedback for that. So that about wraps it up. Yeah.
This is going to be real interesting. It's actually Chris Jerdez, and I hope I said your name right. And Chris actually found us. You're going to find this real interesting. Chris was in a class that was being given by Miss Finn Downhill. And she told her students that they should come to this event. And that's how they found us. And so I just think that that's absolutely wonderful because
that's awesome.
Yeah, she's provided so much great education to the SEO community. And so for you to find through this and then get here, and I just want to say thank you so much. You really, I don't know how you can pick the, if you can go through the tag for NLE, but you have to go see all of these comments that you are getting. You are getting so many content, so much. I have learned so much. I am in the process of redoing 2 sites. I mean, they're just saying that you need to hold a webinar on each slide.
Awesome.
Yes, they learned so much. So you're going to have to go hit Twitter. You might be stuck there for a long time, but they absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I think you're going to be getting phone calls for that site evaluation from the sounds of it, because they're going, how much? Let's try to get to as many questions as we can. Now, I have one question because this has been asked quite a bit, and I'm going to ask you your opinion on this. The whole thing, I'm sure you remember, came out where with e-commerce sites they were saying to do the no-follow links with the images, and do the no-follow links to your products, and do it here, 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 and then site owners were going absolutely crazy with it, and then Google put down, you know, their slam and said, okay, you know what, this has gone a little bit out of hand, which is usually how things become spam in the first place. So I have been a little bit hesitant of implementing the no follow tag for shopping carts and all of that stuff, because I'm worried that this is, again, one thing that's going to be taken advantage, become a slap one day, and I always try to make sure that we put things into effect that will never, ever, ever become a problem later for site owners. So what is your opinion on that? Because we have so many store owners here, and I would love your opinion on this, because again, I always stick with the thing, I'm not going to do anything. If you want to do that, that's fine, but I'm not going to do that to you.
Right. Well, the no-follow, I mean, it was originally designed for comments and blogs where people are dropping links, and it's to say, hey, you know, we're not trusting these links. And if you hold to that original concept, it's still a good tag to apply. If you cannot trust the content that you're linking out to, add the no-follow. So you're not passing any link weight to those pages. Where people got into the page rank sculpting using the no-follow, it was, I've got 10 links going out of this page. I don't want the search engines to pass page rank to 5 of them, so I'm going to add the no-follow. And the search engines came back and said, hey, you know what, we're counting the links, and page rank is just being thrown away now. So if you no-follow 5 of those pages, you're not consolidating that page rank to the other 5 links. you're just throwing it away. So what I would say with the no-follow is, you know, I don't really see a big need to use it except for the fact where you don't trust the link going out. If you're trying to sculpt PageRank on your site, the only thing I might use it for is for linking to things like policy pages where I don't really want those pages in the search results, so I don't want to throw any weight to those.
And see, there's our question, because when we brought up put the no-follow links on the shopping cart, I guess my train of thinking and why I haven't implemented that with the store owners I work with is I don't want to tell the search engines I don't trust my own shopping cart.
Right.
That's
right.
my
no,
train
and
of
I think
thinking.
Yeah, and I think there's some validity to that. But if you don't want the search engines in your shopping cart, there's better ways to keep them out than using the no-follow.
Right.
Because the no-follow will actually, they'll still follow it. They just won't assign weight to the link. So you're not really doing yourself any favors using it that way.
Okay, yeah, because we had that when that came up, that just blew up about Yahoo stores, and that it blew up. So I wanted to have a discussion with you about it. I also did get many questions saying, can you please have them on your radio show? So I will be emailing you and begging you to come on the radio show on Webmaster Radio.
Okay.
I love that. Okay, so we're going to try to get through as many questions as we can, as fast as we can, because I know that a lot of you had those things. Okay, splitting links. Does that mean you don't want the same product found in different sections or subsections?
How the product is navigated to does not matter. It's the URL. There should only be one URL per product. So that's what's key here, is differentiating between how people navigate to the product, so you can have a single product available from multiple angles, but when the visitor lands on that product, that URL needs to be consistent, regardless of how they got there.
All right, so in our frog example that we talked about yesterday, how you've got the bikini, it's okay to put it in women's clothing, and it's okay to put it in frog clothing and swimwear, as long as the frog bikini is one page, if that kind of helps you put it into perspective. There were people that were saying, because we got a lot of newbies here, and this is a great, great question, what is a canonical tag?
Well, I had it, and do people have access to these slides?
If you could let me, yes, we'll put it on SlideShare and make it available.
Yeah, the canonical tag, I actually put the tag on that slide, and it basically just tells the search engines that whatever page is being viewed or whatever URL is being viewed, you're pointing to the actual page that is the true page.
Mm-hmm.
If you do a search on Google for canonical tag, there's all kinds of explanations, but they all boil down to the same thing. It's basically saying you're not on the true page. The canonical tag links to the true page. The visitor doesn't ever see it, but the search engines do.
Okay, another really, really, oh, and they're all going, they're all saying, please, please, please share your slides. Here's another really great question that comes up all the time. You guys are asking really great questions. So you've got, let's say you've got this one product, and I know what you're trying to ask here, so I'll give a little more explanation so more people learn from it. You've got a really great product, but you've learned that people are just searching for this product two different ways, so maybe you build two different landing pages. You're kind of going after different names, trying out different names, going after two sets of keywords. Is that where you would use that canonical tag, or would you just go after those two different search term phrases?
Yeah, I wouldn't use the canonical tag on that because what you're doing is you're creating pages that are talking about the product in view of each person's specific needs. So there's a lot of different ways to do this, and I can't really say this is the correct way because it depends on the site. If you're going after and trying to optimize it for two keywords that are very different from each other, you might have a hard time trying to get that page to rank for both of those keywords. And that's where you may need to create a separate page that is therefore each page is targeting the type of user that's searching for it this way, and another page for a type of user searching for it that way. I wouldn't worry about the canonical tag because you don't want the search engines to disregard one over the other. You want both of those to rank because they're going to rank for two very different phrases.
Perfect, perfect. And then the other question that we're getting a lot of is people are wondering, how much of this unique content should we be using? Content spinners, and it's like I feel like we get this a lot. People don't want to invest the time in the content, and it's like the content is like the meat and bones of the website, and it's like you can invest your time in all these link strategies and all of this and this and this, but if you don't have that unique content on your website, it just doesn't matter.
Right.
You don't get that.
Yeah, no, and I wouldn't use the spinners that just take content and regurgitate it in a new way. And that's where it comes down to, somebody asking you the question, what makes you unique? Well, you need to have that identity that makes you different than everybody else, and that identity should show in your content, your product descriptions, everything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. And then think about it, if you're using these spinners and you're a customer and you land on this website you really want, and then it's spinned this completely, why did you bring me to your website? You've worked so hard to bring me to the website. Either you've worked hard on SEO, you've worked hard buying pay-per-click ads or working on your social media, and now you've brought me to your website for nothing? I mean, what was the entire point of doing that?
Right.
So
yeah, if the content's garbage, you're not going to sell anything.
Thank you. So a lot of questions about what exactly are session IDs. If we can maybe do a quick explanation about that.
Well, it's a number that is usually tagged onto the end of a URL to identify the person who's visiting the site. So when they start adding products to the shopping cart, they go to the shopping cart, you get only your products, you don't get the product somebody else added. So that's a way that through the website development, they tag on the session ID so they can track a user through the site down to making their purchase. But again, it creates that duplicate URL problem or the duplicate page problem, 100 URLs for the exact same page.
Yeah, I got it. And here's something really good. We were talking about making it printable. Well, here's a great question. What about putting it in a PDF? But if I'm thinking, if you got this file and then you've got the PDF, is Google going to be looking at its duplicate content if you've got that right there together?
Yeah, I don't think the search engines look at PDFs as duplicate content.
Okay. Because I know they're reading them so well now and making them into HTML, and
yeah,
it's like it's
but
changing.
It could factor in if they see, well, this is just this over here. They would probably just eliminate the PDF altogether. So that's one way to do it. There's nothing wrong with that, and that's where you might actually no-follow the PDF links. Or put them in a folder that you eliminate through the robot.txt file and disallow. But most people, they don't want to have to download a PDF. They just want to click print. Mm-hmm. So if you use the search-friendly CSS, click print, boom, it's done. You don't have to worry about it.
That's right. And we're doing everything our customers want us to do. And I have over here, I'm on the page that you guys are talking about. I'm getting a lot of people wanting to make sure that they get the keyword research and selection ebook, and they're saying that the link's not working. So it looks like our link is working, so we'll make sure he checks on that and lets us make sure you're following for lots of great information. I know you guys learned a lot. Thank you so much for being here. I know we have to move on to our next webinar. I can't thank you enough. I mean, I just have to say to you, thank you for being here, because it was your education and this kind of education that I received at Search Engine Strategies that blew my mind away, that brought me to creating this New Life event, and thank you so much for sharing that.
You bet.
Thank you so very much. All right, so if you guys want to take a quick break and, while I introduce our next speaker and get everything set up, you can do that. We'll just take like a quick let's do a quick 2-minute break, because I know we've been going on and on and on for the last 4 minutes. So we'll take like a real quick 2-minute break so we can all go to the restroom, including me. We'll make sure that you're getting all this great information. You're going to get the slides. You're going to get the rebroadcast. You're going to get the audio. that was such great information, and here's what I'm going to recommend. If you felt very overwhelmed by kind of the stuff that you were learning and you're like, some of this is over my head, what I want you to do is go apply 1% of what he taught you, and then I want you to listen to the audio file again and apply another 1% and listen to the audio file again. There may be something where you're like, I don't understand what he means when he's talking about that. You go do your research. There's a couple of different things that a lot of people were asking me questions about. I'm going to build different research projects for you. So that is all there for you. Stoney has got great information. Follow his blog. He is constantly updating us on the latest, greatest information, and that's what we need to keep relevant. So thank you again, Stoney, and we're going to go on a 2-minute break.